Right. Here we go. We're live. Floyd Chroma. Ooh. This look like say Floyd you in the wait, eh? Cause I just go Floyd don't disappear again. Floyd, if you want to come on the program, yes, you can send me an invite. It's not a problem. I'll bring you on, although I expect a guest, but you go to warm the floor until the guests they come. So it shouldn't really be a problem, okay? Shouldn't really be a problem. So if you're interested for come on, it just surprised me as soon as I go on, you come on straight along with me. So, good evening, family. I hope everybody is getting me loud and clear. And please, first of all, I think today we will not be going through the usual ritual of playing a music or song to dampen the gun. So we all go able for discover with nerves. We all go able for discover with nerves, and then for able for deliver the message to the people. But that's what we hear about. It's nothing personal. Nothing really personal, Fambulem. So I guess una de hear me loud and clear. And I de ask una please for share this video. This is serious. We all know say some serious things and they go on. And every country, the bread and butter, the economy is the real deal. No one here that has tuned on in the meantime go deny that. Bread and butter is the real deal. So today, this evening, I want to talk about two things, and I expect a guest with me and go talk about the topic. I put the topic, but I see it disappear. So maybe I make mistake. I just come out work and just hurry. Normally, my daughter and can help me for set up my material and before coming to studios. But unfortunately, she's not here. She's traveling, so they're busy up and down with mom. But notwithstanding, the show must go on. Mr. Jimmy Okello, welcome to the program. Today, I believe it's the 21st of August, 2019. And I still wait for let people settle because this is serious. We're going to give a bang as it is, you know. And it says about the reality as usual on this particular platform. And it gets something for do with the current leadership. It gets something for do with the current finance minister, the man who is responsible for the purse of the country. So please share this video, Fambulem. Share the video. Bring your moms, bring your dads, cousins, sisters, nephews, nieces, uncles, aunties, and everybody, because everybody needs to be a part of this. I'd expect a guest, so I keep going over the loop where we go talk about them because it don't come. And a silent community is a complicit community, okay? I always say on my programs, or most of the time, yes, Mr. Superman Mohamed Kamara, a regular guest here, welcome to the program. Sister Ramatu Mansari, welcome to the program, and everybody else, welcome to the program. And yes, Mr. Fox, welcome to the program. Unfortunately, the topic disappeared just before they go live, and people let me not begin to join. But the topic here is it time? It's in two parts and two different questions that we need for deal with tonight. Banks Umar, hi then and now. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome to the program. Two parts we'll deal with here tonight. Part number one, or we might juxtapose the questions depending on when the guests come, because my guest tonight want to talk about one of the subjects matter. But I just want to let we know what's in the topic them. One, it says, is it time for President Maada Bio, the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, for let him finance minister go? JJ SAFFA. In other words, aka JJ Blood. Is it time to let the finance minister of the Republic of Sierra Leone go? Dana in boss, because I get for take that decision, then I get confidence in him. And when that confidence exists no more, then the president of the republic obviously will have to take action and let him go. But for now, it seems forget confidence in him. Maybe this go change, or it depend change, or the day in talks. But from waiting with the gather, things doesn't seem quite rosy. And it's obvious. But like I say, most of the time in the larger context of things, we say people then will come to different conclusions. Remember, we are tribal animals. We instinct them. We get a sense of belonging. We get a sense of people that we share cultural, social ties with, political ties with. So in the larger context of things, we all here will have different conclusions. But what matters is for us to take a step back, compare and contrast, look at the evidence available, and make a decision. Nobody makes these decisions, here for us per se. Yes, government can make decisions them for us, and not mean say the decision are power. And I know they refer the word power to the government. I mean, and not mean say we go agree with the decision. It's not all decisions we agree with. Sometimes when government itself make the decision, then the decision then can be wrong. In terms of policy implementation, not all policies are good policies. Some of them can be bad policies. Okay, but the intent generally now for the greater good. So in the larger context of things, Fambulem, we might all come to a different conclusion. But we've got to be honest, and this is the point. We know say increasingly honesty is beginning to look like a thing of the past. But what we can then say is there is still some honest people left, even though few, but there are. This we can say for sure, okay? But most of we now, in the context of public or social media, we don't begin to draw moral equivalence between two evils. And this is wrong. This is wrong. Because these are not the only two options that we are left with. Yeah, Mr. Ba, good evening, my brother. How are you? How you do, me brother? So, what we will try for doing now tonight is, as usual, present we case to you people. We all go through the motions together, look at the evidence available. And the way we go begin this evening, sure enough, like we don't do most of our programs, is looking at the hardcore evidence. Hon J Sawyer, welcome to the program, my sister. Let's continue to share this video. We want more people. We want more people here because this is it. This is it. It's not easy, but we have to have a conversation. You know, say that most people don't begin to detest politics. Even if not been some time ago, but the evidence don't begin to become very, very clearly show say that people are not beginning to detest politics. If you conduct a survey right now, you will find out say that a lot of people are even confused in terms of politics. They are confused in terms of politics. Things are not going right. But the observation of human motor psychology, it tells us a lot. It tells us a lot. Effie, welcome to the program. These days you disappear from the then and now. But we are here, we are not going anywhere. That's a contributing sister all the way from stateside. In life, people dread losses more than they can savour gains. I repeat, people dread losses. Because even if you're not a businessman, when you conduct your business, all time you had the hang, but losses business. So the way you can take losses seriously, and more than the way you can celebrate where you finally make gain. Because losses can come anytime. And the fear of losses, the damage where losses can do, now it can cause that fear day. Also, now this channel tonight, I want to make it clear because it's becoming increasingly relevant that we make it clear, which is, we understand, say, when you criticize, it hurts more than when you sing praises. People elect praises, so then take them for granted and then wish for them. But the moment you criticize people, they take it very seriously and it's hurtful, we understand. That's why even in our criticism, we try to be measured. It's a journey, about us. Not the journey itself we make now. Because we are already conducting that journey. What do you remember now the destination? Inside we mind of minds. I play some psychological game before they come to the real thing. Inside we mind of minds, okay? We get good memory for things the way they go wrong, okay? Than the things the way they go right. Any message of hope and change, we generally they welcome them. In politics, let us not rule out anything. And you never say never in politics. So humans are hardwired to avoid pain. Absolutely. I get a psychologist, a counselor, a philosopher on the forum tonight. Welcome. Sally Fuketa Banks, welcome to the program. So all of the examples there I give, that people are not beginning to detest politics. Of course, there's a reason, because politics is not paying them back. And they talk about the larger majority, not the few as usual. And they talk about the many. So there is a detestation for politics if we observe human psychology more. And especially going back to Sierra Leone and many other countries for that matter, okay? People are generally, including myself and most of us that are here, we dread losses past how we look for gain. Yes, we look for the gain, but our losses, that fear for loss, we get good memory, retentive memory of things the way they go wrong than the one the way they go right. So people then they look for a clear message of hope and change. That's why Barack Obama, Hussein Obama, was a success in the United States, and the brother is a genius. Take him any way you want to say him. So the reason why I mention all of these gentlemen is the analogy behind this, that people dread losses more than than they enjoy profit. How criticism can hurt more than praise. It's because of the current situation. A lot of people are not happy when we present, we case na this particular forum. And the way we do them, or we try for do them, despite the biases, which is generally in people naturally, but there's no evil intention. We just want to make case for the general populace. So tonight anyway, ladies and gentlemen, things are not really going right. I repeat, things are not generally going right. So much so that the noise is becoming louder. And the recent noise, which is growing even more louder, is that of the Minister of Finance of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Honorable Mr. JJ SAFFA, commonly known as JJ Blood. The reason why this minister don't become so, I don't want to call him public enemy number one, but the sentiments towards the minister is not great at all, to be honest. The sentiment towards the minister is not great. The condemnation, the criticism, very stinging criticism. And when you look at the public record, at least where you go judge the minister by, there are more questions than answers. So the reason why I mention a message of hope and change is because you get to give people hope that there is a change in the horizon. But the the minister in question, okay, Jacob Jusu Safa, in not doing himself favor, neither did he do the government favor, neither did he help the boss, who is the president, by some pronouncements than what he made recently. And this has been going on for a while. People generally will have accepted that the state of the economy is bad. There are blame games being traded. And it's like, well, we inherited this mess and we're trying to fix it. And this is the situation that we find ourselves in. And the other side making remarks such as, you said you were taking a new direction from the old direction. And many months into the new direction, and you did make pronouncements in the earlier part of your takeover of the reins of government, but yet up till now, this economy that you promised to fix, this trickle down thing, the people are yet to feel it. Not only feel it, but it's getting even more harder. So now people are beginning to call that the minister most likely should either resign, which is a difficult thing, especially when you look at African ministers. Only when the confidence reposed in such ministers by the employer who happens to be the head of state, and by virtue of African standards, we do know that the head of state does hold immense power, raw, undiluted power, which makes them the most powerful person in the land. So it's the head of state that will have to make that decision. But it's the head of state contemplating that. We will try to go into his mind. But this is it, ladies and gentlemen. In view of the statements that the minister has made in public recently, which has not lent him any friends, which has made the criticism of him, to spike, let's spell out the responsibilities of the minister. Because it does seem that the minister, at some point, tried to disown his own responsibilities, because it would be disrespectful for us to say that the minister does not understand his remit. He does not understand his responsibilities. Usman Toli, can I call you? Can I call you? Not video call though. Mr. Usman Tholi, the reason, okay, I'm just about going to disclose this now. The other gadgets that I does use, to do my entertainment before and after the program, or where I entertain calls, the battery has run down flat. Like I said, I didn't charge it before coming into studios. My daughter that normally helps me when I'm on my way to work, from work, to set up the studio so that I can hit the ground running, is going on holidays, I think tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. So she and mom are very busy. They're not even home. So it's really unfortunate, my brother, that you cannot call me on the gadget because the battery is run down. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll see whether we can find some other means later. But let me get back into my element and continue my flow. So I'm saying that it will sound really disrespectful. Should we categorize it in that sense, which is based on statements made in the public, a couple of them by the Honorable Minister of Finance, it will appear that these statements were unacceptable or are unacceptable by the people. It shows poor judgment, and it shows I'm struggling with words because I want to carefully choose my words. I don't just want to, use harsh words, because I also want to show empathy. Let's take for typical example, the minister. You see, I should have been able to play the audio so everybody gets it, so they know exactly which chapter we are on with the minister. The minister is noted to have gone to the public domain, and when asked about the rate, the exchange rate of the country, the minister clearly was not in charge. He made it known that he was out of town, that he's just come back from out of town, so he's not aware, except when he gets back to town. Now just imagine that. I'm not going to say more on that. But that is absolving yourself of responsibility. Okay? Whichever way. Even the PR team cannot patch that up. He was on an interview in one of the radio stations quite recently, in which he appeared visibly irritated. And again, you will try to empathize or show understanding to the minister, but the minister has got a responsibility. This is clear. He has to be seen in public at all times, sort of calmly, not irritated, not banging table, and trying to deliver. And if you cannot deliver, in a practical sense, then when you speak, your utterances must be measured. This is why people are now asking questions as to whether the minister is actually in charge. Because remember that this has been going on for 18 months. And the argument here is, Are they responsible? Are they, in the sense, the ruling government? But how will such a question be asked? Okay? It is true that they inherited a bad economy, but they are meant to fix it. They are effectively in charge. The issue here is, if it cannot be fixed, the responsibility is yours. You own it. Had the opposition party been in power, they would have owned it. But they're gone. And yes, they left a bad economy, but the economy, effectively, you are in charge. So in order to critique the minister tonight, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in looking at the responsibilities, the role and responsibilities as enacted by the Parliament, the Public Financial Management Act, which describes the role of the minister. So this is where we're going to deduce or adduce evidence that will point to, in favor, for, or against the minister, Mr. JJ SAFFA, commonly known as JJ Blood. And here it says, Public Financial Management Act. The responsibilities of the minister, ladies and gentlemen, hear me out, hear me clearly. The responsibilities of the minister. The minister shall, in accordance with this act and any other enactment, and I'm talking about the Public Financial Management Act, this is by law, the responsibilities and the roles of the minister. A, develop the government's fiscal policy covering the general government through preparation of the fiscal strategy statement and state budget documents, including the medium-term budgetary framework. I will go over this at some point when I've made some development, because it's a 2-page document, it's a 3-page document. I'm just going to pick through word for word. I'm not paraphrasing word for word, but just pick through the relevant ones in which the minister has been found wanting, in which the minister's public personnel is being questioned. B, the minister is responsible to prepare the state budget through the control over the budget preparation process. This is a heavy duty that this minister has. It's not a child's play. That's why when it's difficult, you're going the right way, it's difficult for you to find your cool, because it takes a character. But the minister has been found a couple of times losing it in public. C, he is responsible to produce macroeconomic and fiscal forecasts underlining the fiscal strategy, not the physical, but the fiscal strategy statement and state budget documents. People have just joined in again. I want you to know that I'm reading as per document created by an act of parliament called the Public Financial Management Act, a legal document explaining the roles and responsibilities of the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Mr. Jacob JOJO SAFFA, commonly known as JJ Blood. D, the minister is responsible to evaluate projects proposed by budgetary agencies. E, is responsible to monitor and exercise control over the execution of the state budget. Monitor and exercise control over the execution of the state budget. F, he is responsible to manage and control public money through the management of the Treasury single account and the planning and forecasting of cash flow. I repeat this because this is quite relevant to the discussion here tonight. And that's F, under the Public Financial Management Act. The minister is responsible to manage and control public money through the management of the Treasury single account and the planning and forecasting, of cash flow. G, the minister is responsible to coordinate the management of external grants and loans made to the state. H, the minister is responsible to monitor and manage fiscal risks and prepare fiscal risk statement. I repeat this as well because this is quite important and relevant to this broadcast here tonight. And that's H. The minister is responsible to monitor and manage fiscal risk and prepare fiscal risk statements. You know the two financial arms of government. If it's not fiscal, it's monetary. Monetary, we know, is the bank of the country, the National Bank of Sierra Leone, and the fiscal side, which we are talking about today, and the man being spoken about here on this program tonight is none other but the man responsible for the national purse. And these are his roles and responsibilities because they've come under question as at this moment that I speak and for a little while now, because things, in many respects, are not going well. The minister is also responsible to monitor and exercise control over the financial management of entities included in the general government and public enterprises. Roles and responsibilities of the Minister of Finance and Economic Development. I, the minister, is responsible to ensure transparency in the execution of state budgets, the management of public money, I repeat, the management of public money, and the financial management of entities included in the general government and public enterprises. K. The Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Honorable JJ SAFFA, is responsible, to monitor and exercise control over the management of extractive industries, revenues in accordance with this act. Very, very important act. A very, very important responsibility that you cannot back away from. And this is why we are actually reading this out here tonight. The minister under N before N rather, is responsible for preparing cash flow forecasts of public monies in consultation with budgetary agencies and other entities included in the central government. The minister is also responsible to performing any other responsibilities conferred on him by any other law, and the laws are there. So he's responsible to perform any other duties as required by law or related to the responsibilities under previous paragraphs. So for the purpose of discharging his responsibilities, under subsection 1, the minister may, and now this is another one, establish or continue in existence with the ministry, as the case may be, such departments, divisions, or units as he may consider necessary or expedient, and B, require any information from any budgetary agencies, other entities included in the general government, public enterprises, and any other persons receiving from the state grants, guarantees, or loans. It's a 3-page document. And ladies and gentlemen, let me repeat again for those of you who have just joined. I am reading the roles and responsibilities of the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mr. JJ Blood, nickname JJ Blood, Honorable SAFFA. And in light of recent pronouncements by the Honorable Minister of Finance, he is not done his due diligence. Respect. So he's become or had come under massive criticism from the general public. We can say that a lot of people has no more sympathy or little sympathy for the minister. That's why from the beginning of the program, we said that because of the situation, economically speaking, the deplorable socio-economic situation in the country, okay, has been faced by the many. There is no message being given who can hold their ground and wait for that change to come. So people are now absolutely disgruntled. And this debate has spilled over to the public, which has prompted us to weigh in on the basis of evidence available to us, to read to you, and also refer the same document to you, because it's out there for the public. This is what we are presenting to you. The roles and the responsibilities. The reason again, ladies and gentlemen, why we are reading the roles and responsibilities of the Honorable Minister of Finance is because of the denial or apparent denial of the roles and responsibilities of this honorable man. So therefore, we feel constrained to read out these roles and responsibilities and share the reference to you. So the minister, in one of his outbursts, said that he's not aware about the exchange rate. Now, how can a minister, simply because he's gone out of town, is saying that he's not familiar with the rate as at the time in the country? Can you imagine that whilst he was out of town? Still waiting for Mr. Jamboria to join the program so he can make his contribution. And I want to welcome again everybody to the program. Please share this. The economic situation in the country is not doing well. And this is a matter of fact. What they can now tell us is why it is not doing well. We are not talking about cooking economics. We are not talking about mismatch economics. We are talking about a practical economics which trickles down to the people. I mean, if the people will have to make sacrifices now for a better tomorrow, then this has to be made known. That is why in my opening, I read or stated some of these lines, which are, people are becoming very put off by politics. This is by mere observation of the psychology of our people generally, be it in the Western world, just because of the way politicians perform. Yeah, Asana to welcome. And people dread losses. Business people are losing. The situation is becoming dire if it's not yet dire. I mean, you call family and friends, everybody is complaining. Now, you have to show some understanding, and I equally said this for the minister, that to rein in the economics, of course it's going to be difficult, but then you have this half-baked, it's like everybody has become an economist, and I'm not claiming to be one, although they are the basics. And I am looking at the trickle-down effect because I've heard a lot. And if the people are complaining, if the business people are complaining, if the businessmen and women, those that are supposed to create wealth, those that are supposed to create opportunities are complaining, they're not getting tax breaks, instead they are being taxed higher, they're not getting the opportunities because of the same taxes to create opportunities so that people can have jobs. And when people have jobs, they are paid. And when they are paid, the money circulates and there's GDP growth and the economy expands. I'm not an economist, but that seems like a simple one. It's not simple application though. We do understand. So some people complain that there is, a loss in skilled jobs, or the youths, who are in heavy unemployment. About 60, some figures put it at 70%, are not skilled. So the labor that the government should be turning to is not skilled. But is that why there's no employment? Or no employment, but is that the reason why 60 to 70% of the youths are not employed? The president speaks, and rightfully so, of the human index factor. So how do we develop this, Mr. President? You clearly understand the human index factor. I've heard you, I've seen you many a time speak about this, and when you speak about it, I have no doubt that you speak about it, sir, in sincerity. But words have to be put in action, and there has to be some delivery, and it has to be felt on the ground. But if it's not being felt on the ground over a period of time, that is going to cause some, unsettlement. People are going to feel unsettled, sir. And as this continues, people will become restless, and people are becoming restless. People are openly talking about this. So it's not like something of this nature is being made up. My sister Patience Jonah from Bestman, all the way Monrovia, welcome to the program. It's a similar thing, my sister watching from Monrovia, it's a similar thing happening in Liberia, our sister Republic of Liberia, whom we share border with. They're going through some serious economic difficulties. I speak to all these people. I've got people all over the place, in the Ivory Coast, in the Gambia, in Guinea-Conakry, in Monrovia, Liberia, in Togo. I've got people there that we talk, family and friends, and sometimes before you come on live, so that you try to make a comparison between X and Y and try to find a middle ground and see where you can sympathize. But certainly it's a matter of fact that things are not going right. And what I tell, my friends, both in opposition and in the ruling party, is there has to be room for dialogue, because currently there is no room for dialogue. And this is as well not helping the economy, because to help the economy will mean that there has to be a spirit of cordiality. There has to be a spirit of security. There has to be a spirit of welcoming, of conversation, of mutuality, of continuity. But none of these elements are available. So it creates such a tense atmosphere that, so tense is the atmosphere that you can feel it. You can you pass a knife there and it won't go through because it's so thick. And under these conditions, you hardly find investors, at least not sober investors. So that also creates a problem in the economy. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Mr. JJ Blood, Honorable JJ Blood. Okay? We're talking about his roles and responsibilities, because this question seemed to have come up lately, in which by a couple of pronouncements made by this minister in public, some people raised the question as to whether the minister is in charge. And when you listen, you tend to want to listen to the other side of the question. So that prompts us to go and look for materials to see what the responsibilities of the minister is. So we continue. I've read the Public Financial Management Act, which defines, by virtue of Parliament or an act of law, the roles and responsibilities of the minister. And we've heard that clearly. You can revisit the tape and get a clarity on it. It tells you about his responsibilities. We need to hold our so-called public servants to account. Well, Mr. Okello, thank you for that, sir. And what this government is doing is holding this public officials to account. But that's previous public officials, bringing them into account, for them to account for past deeds, which supposedly were not right. But we're dealing with the Minister of Finance, and we are talking about his roles and responsibilities. What do you think when the minister said publicly, when asked in one of the local radio stations about the state of the economy and the exchange rate? One will normally think that the minister is on top of the situation, that he's got the lead on the situation, that it's him that opens it, it's him that closes it. At least he's supposed to appear as a man in charge. But couple of this bad public relations campaign on public media, it went bad, it went pear-shaped, it went awry. And now this minister is being held to account for that. And to sort of justify that, because there's a lot of minions that have come online and try to salad dress the statement by the minister. Some took it lightly, some did not. And especially if you are at the end of the receiving stick, if you are going through economic difficulties. Those that are going through economic difficulties did not take the statement lightly. Hence why we decided to look into this. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Development is a key arm of the government of the Republic of Sierra Leone, which is mandated to formulate and implement sound economic policies. I can't repeat this louder, or I can't say it any louder than I've already said. It's mandated to implement sound economic policies and public financial management. So I'm simplifying the role after reading from the Act. I'm trying to simplify or paraphrasing the role of this minister in question. So he's charged, okay, to implement sound economic policies and public financial management, and also ensure efficient allocation of public resources to promote a stable economic growth. This is what this minister is charged with. This is a huge responsibility for this minister. The question here is, has he achieved this? Because there's so much talk, and the economy can be very, very complex. And it is complex. Some of us talking about it on the outside is because we are on the outside. Had we been on the inside, we will see the difficulty. But what we are trying to say here tonight, is there any better way that can be explained? Ladies and gentlemen, hear me out. Better memory. We've got better memory for things that go wrong than things that go right. This is the way people are beginning to see it. It's psychological. People hate criticism, so the government, of course, is at the end of the stick in terms of this and many others. The government is being criticized left, right, and center. And if these criticisms are valid, and the ones that I have heard are valid, including, I believe, what I'm saying here, but it's up to the public to adjudicate, and I said that from the beginning of the program, that based on documents showing the responsibilities of the minister and what has transpired over the last couple of weeks, specifically the last couple of days, when the minister came from out of town, held an interview or radio program, and showed that he wasn't on top of the situation when he was asked a question about the exchange rate. That was kind of embarrassing. That was kind of embarrassing. That was unacceptable. Yeah, especially when things are going bad. So people tend to remember these things. So we're trying to outline those responsibilities as required by law, his responsibilities and his role. Like I was saying, I was paraphrasing after reading line by line. It's a 3-page document. I read most of it out, so we have an idea. Now I'm paraphrasing that responsibility of the minister to break it down so that every one of us get it quite clearly. So understanding, first of all, what this ministry is, before we go into or talk about the man who is heading it, his roles and responsibilities. So the Ministry of Finance of the country, which is also responsible for economic development, is known to be a key arm of the government of the Republic of Sierra Leone, which is mandated. Hear the word mandate, when it comes to legality. Okay? That's when you begin to hear terminology such as mandate. It's mandated. That's a very powerful word and very strategic. That's why it's strategically used by law. This ministry is mandated to formulate and implement sound economic policies and public financial management. So therefore, if the ministry is charged with these responsibilities, it's clear that whoever is the boss, whoever heads this ministry, is clearly responsible for the formulation and the implementation of this sound economic policies and public financial management. And this person, at this particular time in the history of the nation, is none other than Mr. JJ SAFFA, commonly known as JJ Blood, Honorable. Okay? Now, this ministry and its minister, its head, who is responsible for the national purse, the financial strings, he is the keeper. He is the guarantor I won't hesitate to say that, because he's keeping. And imagine all what we've said about his responsibilities, what he's charged with. Along with this minister needs to ensure the efficient allocation of public resources is made to promote stable economic growth. The question is that what we have now? Is that happening now? If the answer is no, then people will want to know, why is it not happening now? Of course, there could be valid reasons, but we've had reasons in the public domain why it's not happening now. And those reasons, are sort of raising eyebrows. And the longer those reasons are given for what is now becoming a protracted economic problem, in which we've seen ideas being implemented, but doesn't seem to be reining the problem in, because the monetary and the fiscal seem to be working in tandem, but yet things are not happening. We understood that jobs are being created, but we need to ask ourselves, what jobs? What jobs are being created? It is true that jobs are being created, but we could equally ask, at which expense? Are people losing their jobs while others are being created? Percentile-wise, are more percentages of the workforce being reduced as opposed to assimilating or absorbing new entrants, which shows that employment is taking place? But I ask the question again, at which cost? We know that the economy has contracted. We know that the economy has slowed down significantly. We know generally that it's in bad shape for many, many diverse reasons. Things are not really good, even in the Western world. 9 major economies are either in recession or about to go into recession. And what this does on a global, 9 major economies, what this does is it affects the other senior economies, like the number 1 or number 2 economies in the world, China and the United States vis-a-vis China. And these has trickle effect down on us as a country. I wrote an article, I think about 2 weeks ago, in which I attempted, to articulate, not in simplistic or wholesome economic terms, because I've already said that I am not an economist rather, but there are clear signs as to those who know economics, and when you read in between the lines, that you can tell. Like if you've done your high school economics, the law of demand and supply, it gives you a clear indication what that is. Applicability in it, references to it, it might get complex, but on the basic level, yes. Macroeconomics, yes. So we are not a producer, for example. We are a net importer of XYZ. So that is costing us a massive, massive mountain of forex, both for goods and services. Goods that we consume, okay, and goods that we need for other services, all sort of come in. And to buy them means that you need forex, and we don't have this forex. So recently we saw the Bank of Sierra Leone done another set of auctioning again. I haven't seen the full report as to the benefits. I know the intention was good, because forex has to be given to the business people to order their goods, or goods has to be paid for, so that there has to be a continuation. But all the time, because this is not the first time, I think this is the 3rd auction that we've done, and for very good reasons, economic reasons, to stimulate the economy so that goods and services can still be serviced and they can be flowing in, so that there can be continuation. But there are certain difficulties, because even when you pair the leone to the dollar, it's a negative. It's been going up, up, and up. It worries people. It worries the business people. It worries the local class. And it's the local people who are more worried. It's them that are most affected. Seriously. because all the businessman does, and you can't blame them, they pass the buck on to the consumer, which are the poor people. And in an economy where the job percentile is probably about 20%, put it at most 30%, how does the other 70% survive? Have we ever asked ourselves those questions? How do they survive? And if the economy is being strangled, if the economy has contracted, if GDP growth has dropped significantly, if inflation is still at double digits and rising, can you imagine the consequence on the ground? You know, sometimes they say the ground dry, but the people are capable of, you're turning it into fun. Now we hear into music. But when you understand the psychology of the country and the people, this is not a new phenomenon. To cushion the pain, to absorb the pain, this is what people go into. It becomes slangs, but it is serious. It's a kind of vibes. It's a kind of code. It becomes songs. It's all over the place. And people dance their troubles away. It's not new. In the 1980s, we saw our people struggle. I've always made mention of that. Right after the late Siaka Stephen hosted the OAU, the country went into some deep recession, some serious problem, inflation. And I don't think they've been ever able to rein the excesses of that time, except probably there's a new model. But I don't think that there's a new model. It was a continuation. What actually came to help was the war that broke out. So the war was some kind of a blessing in disguise, because it got rid of one old system. It brought a new system and ushered a second republic. And that second republic was supposed to develop and bring hope for the people. And at some point, there was real hope for the people. There is still hope, but that hope is fast diminishing. And this is what we are saying. There is so much ongoing which is negative, inherited by this government, some of it inherited by this government. For example, we speak to violence. Violence is nothing new in the country. It's been ongoing from independence. It became part of our national psyche in the 1980s when it was used as a public instrument. And it became exposed to all during the years of civil war. And that violence to this day continue. That every little thing erupts into violence. It's either effected on people who are charged to serve and to protect, or the other way around, on people who are meant to be protected and to be served. And this just needs to stop. We all need to understand this aspect of things, and needs to stop if we want to take the country forward. This is why I call for a dialogue. This is why I call for space. This is why I call on those who are reputed for trying to make the country ungovernable. And this is why I call on the ruling government to understand that they are the key stakeholders and they bear the maximum responsibility of exercising restraint and trying to bring people not in a disconcerted way, not in a half-hearted way, not only in to pull, make political point scoring, not to gloss over, but genuinely in the spirit of reconciliation, because the people have suffered a lot. I speak in behalf of the people. So government, who has got the responsibility to take care of its people, needs to understand the plights of its people, and it's been going on for quite a while. And therefore, she will institute measures to bring these people together, all the stakeholders, like they tried to do with the Bintumani 3. I don't want to go there because I don't think Bintumani was ripe. I don't think it was right. Okay? The conference in itself is a needed conference for national reconciliation, but the factors has to be right. You could not have called a peace conference when the factors on the ground are not right. That's why conflict resolution has now shifted to conflict prevention. But the conflict on the ground is so much, it's sparse all over the country. Political violence, tribal violence, regional violence, social violence, and all as a consequence of largely bread and butter economics. Because if our people are largely full, if our people are largely engaged, because this is the thing in Western societies, because they got restless communities as well, but they try to keep them engaged. So if we have a significant proportion of our population, or very youthful people who are meant to be engaged constructively, either in school or in vocational studies or in full-time education or in full-time work or part-time work or traineeship, apprenticeship, then of course there will be less social problems, which will in turn have less effect on the social services, on the institutions of government. And that implies it will have less effect on economics as well in terms of expenditure in those various institutions. It's a trickle-down effect, and it's a net effect that has consequences that can reverberate throughout government or governance. Ladies and gentlemen, we come back to I will move to the second topic shortly. Hello, my brother, and let's see who's that. Hello to all. There have been a lot of greetings. I'm just seeing them now. Yes, Mr. Dionysius Johnson, welcome to the program, my friend and brother. And all the others, welcome. I mean, there are so many people here tonight. Thank you for coming and watching the program. And, you know, as you're getting older, you're increasing your alarm. You increase your alarm, and you can hear my alarm. That's my alarm for morning when I'm going to work. Other than that, I'll sleep the night away. We're talking about the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Honorable JJ SAFFA, commonly known as JJ Blood. His roles and responsibilities. The pronouncements that he made in the public domain quite recently never went down well with the public, a larger percentage of the public. Some people sided with him. The decision has to be made by you. How did you read into those statements that he made? How would you, that things are not going well economically. The economy is in dire strait. The economy is in dire strait. Definitely, certainly we can say that. The exchange rate is bad, it's worse. Okay? The government has failed to rein in the exchange rate. So the dollar is just going up as against the leon. So our local currency, the leons, is in free fall. And that has an effect on everything else. And because we are a net importer of goods, we need foreign money to import goods and services into the country. And we don't have that foreign money. And one other reason, which is having effect on this economy, I tend to want to think, remember the relationship with China. So we've got the Chinese goods all over the place. That has created a trade imbalance in many respects. So we don't generate that foreign money. It's just people, here that sell in local currency and they look for this foreign money that they will change, which nets them a net benefit, net profit, while our local and domestic industries suffer. And that's what's going on. So that's why when the bank governor auctions money, it's just an exercise, really. Because if you cannot stabilize the economy, if you cannot stimulate it, in other words, put into place things that will stimulate it, then there's not going to be any growth. You talk about jobs. How can you increase the wage bill budget when the country is struggling in terms of paying its workers, the existing workers already, and then wage bill is being increased? Where do you get this money from? So you tend to increase revenue, either through taxation or creating other entities. And all of this has got a problem as well on those that are not able to shoulder the burden. Some of the businessmen, some of them have quit. Either the Chinese goods, which are just all over the place, has put them out of business, or because they cannot get maximum return. Some of them have got empathy for the people. Let's say a bag of flour has gone up, and this wholesaler has to buy the bag of flour based on the new cost. That new cost will then be passed on to the consumer. If the consumer comes to buy the bag of flour, that consumer will have to pay more. if they are buying like bag of flour from the wholesale importer of flour. And that consumer of flour, or that buyer of the flour, who is going to bake something like bread or the rest, will also have to pass the cost that they've spent to buy it on a profitable basis to the next consumer. And then it becomes harder, because either you don't have the money to buy it if the money goes up, or sometimes what they do, they reduce the quantity or the size of the goods so that they can be able to absorb the cost at probably the same rate. So if you used to sell bread at 1,000 leones, because the price of flour has gone up, if the size of the bread remains the same for this local entrepreneur, then that means the cost of the bread will have to go up, either by 100 leones or 500 leones, but it won't remain the same. But sometimes to shoulder the cost and for the consumers to continue buying, they use a simple tactic by reducing the quantity of the item. So they make the bread smaller and they keep the price there. Sometimes they even make it more smaller than you can imagine, because it's inside the very cost, the same cost as before for a bigger size. That's where they expect to make profit, and a little profit, because they have to go and buy again. And going to buy again, there's no guarantee that the price will remain the same. Because why? The economy is in dire strait. The leones is in free fall. Economic growth has contracted. So this is a problem. So when the minister comes to the public and says that he's not aware because he was out of town, that statement is unacceptable by the brunt of the people who are feeling the pain. The logic is simple. So we read out the responsibilities of the minister, which he obviously knows. You can't get upset, Mr. Minister, and start, punching the table in the public. Then what would you say of the people who find it more difficult to find the daily living? Should they go out doing that, I'm sure they will be arrested. So ministers and public figures are supposed to be role models and setting examples and providing hope, like I said, of a change that will come. Because I'm sure this is what they're trying to tell us. To be mindful, to be hopeful that change is going to come. I listened to a brother shortly before coming to studio. Like I said, the politicians, all of us, we have increased in number. But we do detest politics because it's not going well. But some of us are forced to come out, and speak. But again, when we speak, we equally agree that not every one of us will agree. Because socially speaking, we are bounded by our social status, our belonging, either region or tribal. But I don't mean it on the national platform, because if you're a government, then it's not permissible or allowed or acceptable for you to be regional or tribal. It has to be national. So the Minister of Finance is tasked with those responsibilities to promote a stable economic growth and development in the context of a stable macroeconomic environment. Is that environment in existence today? The answer is for you to make up your mind who's watching the program. No, it's not. No, it's not. And that's by the take of the relevant materials which are available. And I've just tried to break that down. And like I say again, criticism is hard to take. But the idea here is, how can we help to transform government? How can we help government to transform its policies to benefit the greater good of the people? How can we bring government to understand that actions taken are not filtering down to the people, or the policies are not working? And it's been going on for a while. How do we? How do we? So there's a responsibility on the part of each and every one of us through diverse means. Those who know how to write, write. Those who know how to research, research. Those who know how to talk, bring it on. But we have to be seen expressing these virtues, that our people cannot continue to suffer as such. I mean, when we speak, we also speak out of pain, out of empathy, because no matter what you say or how you see it, we've got connections back there. We are all connected through some fibers, some moral fibers, some genetic fibers. We are. So their pain is our pain. Our pain is their pain. How can we help government? How can we participate to help government so the narrative can change? How can we prevent this violence, this recurring violence against the people, and already traumatized people? How can we? How can the economy change? How can we create jobs? Not just talking about it. We need practical solutions. The human index, okay, it's very important in life, in societies, in governments, in countries, and the President of the Republic understands this well. But how do we make it work, Mr. President? How do we make it work, sir? We can't go on blaming our youths, saying 70% of them are unemployed, and the reason why they are unemployed is because they are not skilled. That's a preposterous statement to make in the first place. Because even if it is true, then you got to have to ask yourself, what is your responsibility? How did it come to this? What can we do to change that? Where do we start from? So how many of them to this day are still unemployed? War is being done to change the dynamics. Schools, vocational centers, what are the opportunities? Jobs, apprenticeship, what are they? How can we help this youthful population? It's not always talking big. It's what the problem should be. Because let's go to some good things and see how it goes down. We know that the World Bank has responded to the president's request. Okay? And what they've done is they've supported the budget with $100 million. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is not all doom and gloom. But it's supposed, I believe, to stimulate some parts of the economy and create entities, strengthen the institutions so that it can become a wholesome, functioning, and strong society. That the things that we talk about, these basics, can be achieved. But this is not what you're going to be telling the man on the street. This is not what you're going to be telling the man, here at Kinjimi, looking for 10,000 for somebody to buy, some used trainers, 15,000 for some used jeans. It's action. And when is this action going to actually start showing? Before I move to Josephine JOJO, because I want to deal with that for 30 minutes, I've heard the president made an appeal, a poignant appeal. I've watched the president, I'm fond of looking at people and try to understand their mindset and their body language, what they say, how they say, the stressing of words, the intonation, the tone, and the rest of it. And I've not been too bad, in looking at things as such. So I've watched the president make that impassioned plea, which was, judge me after 5 years, after my 5 years. And it's a reasonable ask. It's quite a reasonable ask. And rightfully so, because he's got a 5-year mandate. My take on it at the time and even now is, whilst I agree, but Mr. President, I'm sure, sir, that you will agree that there should be periodic report on your performance. Of course, even when government is performing, even when the economy is performing, even your Minister of Finance, there are quarterly reports to show what's happening. What are the indicators, or what the indicators are showing? What is the statistics? What are the figures? What is the data? What is the analysis? You can't just leave it for 5 years. So all those quarterly reports and the rest of it will determine the direction in which things are going. And that will help to create the 5-year report, which will be the final report card of the year or the 5-year term in office, which you will then present to the Sierra Leonean people to say, this is what I told you to judge me by. But that report will have to be compiled and people have to be given the assurance that things are going fine. But for now, sir, things are not going fine. Things are not going fine economically. And your minister, like the question we ask, is it time to let him go? Has he got more ideas, sir, that he's probably going to apply because he's applied quite a few? But it's not trickling down as yet to the people. And when is it going to start trickling? Because you can see something is going to happen because you put policies into place. But every time we're seeing auctioning of, your valuable asset from the Bank of Sierra Leone. Just a few days ago, dollars were again auctioned. What effect did that have? It's probably again another tentative and short-term effect, just to keep carrying on so that we can see whether we can find solutions. How are we going to stabilize the economy? How are we going to rein in inflation? So if this minister has run out of ideas, sir, I'm sure you got better people who can come in with fresh ideas to come and help, to strengthen, to stabilize this economy so that it can go in the direction which you yearn for. It is clear that if you're not performing well, if you're not living up to your expectations, if you're not in charge, if you're not showing the resilience that the economy needs, the economy which is quite important for you, because this is going to be a judgment for you. I don't know whether you're going to change the balance come 2023, sir. But of course, if things continue on this line, you know the effect. Because people can only bear with you for a short time. The temper of people is going to flare up. They're going to become restless because they got to feed their kids. They got to pay their rent. They're going to send their children to school. They're going to ride public transport. And everything seems to be going on the up. While wages, which you increased some time ago by 5-10%, but by virtue of inflation, is minimal. But that was a good move, sir. But with things going as it is, imagine then, petrol had not yet gone up, which has gone up, and you know the effect when petrol goes up, almost everything else goes up. So, sir, I think you should listen to the people of the country. You should listen to your finance minister. I mean, his pronouncements in public lately. And you have to make a decision, sir. You cannot allow yourself to be seen in the light of what is currently going on, because somebody has to take the blame. If you won't let him go, then you're going to be taking the blame for your minister. You are definitely going to be, although you still have the blame, but there's a reason why you have to be seen taking action. Because if the things are not working, then he has to go. You will need a fresh mind to come in and try them. There's nothing wrong. I'm not sure that there's a blood bond between you and JJ Blood. He just came in because he was expected to perform a duty, because that is his area of expertise. He worked in the World Bank as a junior staff or something. Got an idea. But if he can perform, just like in anything else, then of course he has to go. But it's not me that will make that calling. It's got to be you, sir. But that call is growing and it's louder. And there's an obvious reason why it is. It is not personal. It is rather general. It is national. And it is based on something as significant as the economy of the country, which is not going quite according to plan. Again, I will say this, sir. There's probably a reason to hope, but that hope is not being translated and it's taking a while. But if indeed there are plans being put into place that you've got guarantees that it is going to work, practical plans, the formulas, the policies that when implemented probably over a longer period of time, instead of a shorter period of time is going to work, then probably it's worth taking the risk. Because if things does improve, you will be vindicated. But if it shall continue like this, and people are going through this difficulty, sir, then it's a no-no. It's not acceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Minister of Finance and Economic Development. Minister SAFFA, when the 100 million was given to him, he assured the bank that the use of this money, as he called it, the use of this monies that were given by the new direction, a direction which believes in transparency and accountability, that all the project resources will be monitored by close oversight by the Ministry of Finance. Therefore, he emphasized the government commitment to strengthening to the IPF unit, that's the Integrated Project Fiduciary, so the development partners' resources can be reported and accounted for on their use consistent with international standards. Of course, it will have to be accounted for, because there will come a time again when you have to cross a certain threshold, and you have to go again and ask. A donor economy like ours, so you have to prove to our donors that the money is being used for the right thing and is having effect on the ground. If it does not, when that time is required for you to process a report, then the country is in trouble again, and then the people suffer. So you have to make sure that you get this one right, sir. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is imperative that the president will have to take action. If not sooner, but later. Because it's not going right. Don't sack Mr. JJ Blood. He's been asked to perform miracles in an impossible environment. Yeah, that's really bringing humor into something serious, and I'm sure the audience will appreciate that, but not for the people who are actually going through the difficulties back home. It is actually difficult, Mr. Okello. I mean, we've got families like back home, and we talk to them all the time. They are hopeful, yeah, some of them are in absolute support, but it's a divided opinion, those for and those against. But when, the entire left and right are not getting the benefits, of course they will complain. So they're calling for a degree of action. Paper money backed by nothing is a scam. Exactly. That's a critical point. Paper money backed by nothing is a scam. It's almost like the United States. It's just that they're powerful and it's petrodollar. But it's almost like, when they had a gold standard, that's when, money was really, really serious. But now the United States can just print dollars. Some of these dollars that are circulating in our countries, they don't even go back in there. They're just in circulation. That's why the debt is over like 1 trillion, although they say most of it is internal because they print their own money. They've got the most corrupt system. Trust me. So here we are, we ourselves, we don't print the money, we ask other people to print for us, so we can print like a whole container of money, to do something which has become very common in economies that are struggling. It's called quantitative easing. There's no money, there's nothing backing the money. Let's go make some proposal somewhere, and then they print out money and give it to us. Some of these monies that come, it's just printed and given back to us. And then we just put it into the system, say we're stimulating. But because it's not backed by anything, it's just a matter of time. So I like that. It's a kind of a scam. Anyway, I'll move on to another subject quickly because I need to end this program. And this is one which has to do about the soul of the country, which has to do about the morality of the country. Is there any moral compass? I did say earlier in the first part of the program that there are some people, here left who are morally cultured, who are ethically fit, who has integrity, who are upright and just, but they seem to be getting fewer. And politics tend to be playing a role in this, in which the focus of an entire country seems to be on politics. It doesn't mean that people don't. This is exactly why people detest it, because an entire country seems to be focusing on politics. Politics has become a way of life that when you get into it, things, sort of become different. Yeah. So, yes, Edmonda Elizabeth Jonah, how you do, my sister? Welcome to the program. So it's an issue of morality. moral compass. There is some parliamentary elections coming up in a constituency which has become very, very famous for something that happened there a couple of weeks ago. One of the candidates, known as Madam Josephine Jackson, commonly called JoJo or fondly called JoJo, was involved in something which caught the eyes of a nation and the international community. You see, the international community is watching. And it's not a threat. It's just a matter of fact that these things are being documented. Yes, they are being documented. I'm being serious about this. They are being documented. And so torture is a crime. There's no if and but about it. It's a crime. JoJo, fine. Mr. Henry Dubonhill, welcome to the program. And you need to come on this program soon. I mean, we'll talk in camera. Please send me your number so I can get in touch. I'm very, very pleased that you're tuning into the program. Yeah, because I've been following you. And first of all, congratulations on your victory, your elections victory. Now you're part of the lawmaking body of the Republic. And I am really pleased for you because I've been following you and I know a few friends of yours. But I would like to bring you on so we can talk about a wider context of things in terms of security in Liberia, in the region, the economics, what is going on now, and the rest of it. Okay, I just got in touch with Costa recently, but he was traveling to go back in Monrovia. And hopefully we shall get in touch and he might give me an interview or conversation. And we'll take it from there. But again, welcome, sir, and congratulations. So it's a question of morality, and we know that torture is a crime. It is a crime. And in the full view of public, with government officials there, police there, a young man of the Republic was being tortured. Tortured, supervised by a woman aspiring to become a parliamentarian, somebody who is going into the house of the people to make law, actually supervising torture of a young man, allegedly, who was involved in the vandalizing of a home. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's draw some construct here, okay? Assuming that what she claimed, and I'm saying assuming very strongly, because there are a couple of assumptions which we will come to shortly, which she's made, a couple of claims that she's made, which are yet to be proven, and some of them are ludicrous in nature, preposterous in nature, outright, issues to malign a former sitting head of state in nothing but cheap propaganda. Is that what the politics has come down to? But let me deal with this in context in the first place before coming there. So this aspiring parliamentarian, some fracas develop. I've tried to get relevant proof. I cannot certify 100%, as we normally do here on this channel, which is what led to the commotion in the first place. Because in law, you also have to look at intent. You have to look at the situation, how it developed. So from our understanding, the PPRC, those who are responsible for appoint, because it's election season, if you will call it, because of this by-elections for a constituency called 110, which has become a very famous constituency by virtue of what transpired there, in which names, big wigs were called. Imagine. Yeah. So, they gave out or apportioned election campaign to the various political parties on given days. So no two political party can rally or hold a rally on the same day because of security reasons. Very good thing. Yeah. Because we talked about the tense atmosphere all of the time, and these two rival parties all of the time are involved in skirmishes, you know, yeah, provoked by one or the other. So they saw it fit that to separate them, let's give them different days to hold their rally, to exercise their franchise. So on this given day, the opposition, the major opposition party, the All People's Congress, APC, was said to have been apportioned that particular day. And somehow, this is where the conflicting reports come in. One side is saying that they were provoked by the other side, which happens to have been the governing Sierra Leone People's Party. Now, SLPP, hear me out. It's an allegation that the APC is making, because I have no conclusive proof on that. But the bottom line is, what is known and established is the people responsible for marching or rallying or campaigning by law on that day was the All People's Congress. And somehow in between, violence as usual broke out between the two. Allegations again point out that it was the APC that went through or marched to the house, the residence of another aspiring parliamentarian who happens to be Madam Josephine JOJO Jackson. And the commotion kicked off. Mrs. Josephine Jackson, I've heard this myself on tape, so I am going to paraphrase her. She alleged that her house was stoned, okay, was vandalized for 4 hours, from 6 in the morning. I'm not sure whether it's in the morning, but it happened for 4 hours. I'm beginning to forget her story in terms of when it happened. But it is 6. Can't recall whether it was 6 a.m. Can somebody help me? Whether it was 6 a.m. in the morning, so 10 in the morning, or 6:30 in the morning. But it went on for 4 hours. Her house was being stoned. During this process, she's alleging that the former president, Ernest Bai Koroma, Dr. Ernest Bai Koroma, was in the vicinity. And not only in the vicinity, but was part and parcel of what was going on. Now I repeat, for those of you who did not hear this, that a stoning match took place during this encounter, in which the former president was said or alleged to be involved by this aspiring parliamentarian, Madam JOJO Jackson, that the former president was involved in the vandalism of a house or home, involved in stoning, ferrying people who were allegedly committing the act. Now, I won't go too deep into that. It's for you to deduce, okay, and adduce that particular sector or section of the story, that the former president could find himself being involved in something of that nature, which I'm not going to speak to, but now that you've got the picture. And my understanding is, because of the severity of the accusation and what transpired at her home, okay, people find it, somehow difficult that a young man was being tortured in her place, in the presence of officials, because she is claiming that for the 4 hours that her house was pelted with stones and people jumped over her fence, in which she ended up wrestling allegedly with a boy who was being tortured, in which she also got a dagger off him whilst they both were wrestling. She had two of the most powerful men in the country arrived at her home. Two powerful men. After the president is the vice president. The vice president was there. After the vice president is the chief minister of the republic. He was there. And you know the excess and luggage that these people, or baggage rather, that these people come with. I'm talking about in terms of security. So, our home at that particular time could only potentially, probably the president was not under even such immense security at the time, based upon where he was. He could have been home, sort of relaxing. So security would not have been too tense, as opposed to where this action was, with two of the biggest men in the country. So her place was like a fortress, the most secured place at the time. Yet she said that this place was stoned for 4 hours, and she gave a time as to when these rescue parties came or visited her. And this young man was being tortured. This young man was never taken to police, and in fact, she supervised that. My question to you, ladies and gentlemen, is this the kind of individuals that we want to send to Parliament? And this is the crux of the issue. And this is why I talk about morality. And this is why I talk about principle. We know that standards has dropped, especially lately. And when I say lately, I'm not talking about the last 2 years, before some of you run away with that. For quite a while, standards has dropped. The people that are supposed to go into the big house, I always call it the big house, I always call it the house of the people, are supposed to be honorable men and women. Not many of them are honorable. We can say that because we've seen actions lately in which the police were called into the wells of Parliament, in which parliamentarians were kicked out, in which parliamentarians have demonstrated, in which the chief speaker, the man who is responsible for conducting the business of the House, he himself has a huge question mark over his head into how he came into that job. And a lot of it. So you see the backlash in all of this. So even the Parliament now does look like a rubber stamp Parliament, because 32 of injuncted MP parliamentarians, which gave the opposition party a majority in the House, which gave them a solace after losing power, has been injuncted against. So that majority has now reduced to minority. So they are in the minority in the House, and the ruling party is now a majority in the House by, I think, 1 or 2 people. It's really ridiculous what's going on. Let's be honest about this. And that's why we need to create a public space where we can have this dialogue, because it's not going right. The economy is in dire strait. The minister has been trying, the government has been trying, but it's not been working. And the minister has been making all these pronouncements in public and been making efforts to get it right. It's not going right. It's now 18 months. The governor of the bank keeps auctioning money to get Forex. This is not backed by anything, like my friend said in the channel, in the forum rather, that it's a scam because it's not backed by anything. So we just managed to gather money, and when you reach certain amount, because of things not going well, the economy is in contraction, GDP growth has slowed down, and inflation rate is rising. We can't rein in exchange rate. The dollar now is almost 1 million, if it's not already gone past 1 million. And imagine how fast it's taking place. I'm not saying all of this is the SLPP's responsibility. It is their responsibility now. But yes, some of it was inherited when they took over. But it was meant to take a new direction. So what I was saying, is there hope for the people? Is there a message of hope for the people? But if it's not trickling down, even the hope that you give them, it's just going to be a matter of time. And that noise is getting louder. Again, on the issue of morality, I just asked the question in terms of what I've just described, in which an aspiring member of Parliament could supervise the torture of a young man in a home and made ludicrous, preposterous, outlandish allegations against a former head of state, a former president of the republic, has been involved in nothing more but ferrying vandals who allegedly went to vandalize a home, that the president was involved in ferrying these people, or actually took part in stoning a home, is beyond imagination. And she's not been able to prove that allegation as she's made it. That even though her house was a kind of fortress on the day when it was vandalized, but yet for 4 and some more hours, her house was stoned, even though she had 2 of the most powerful people in the country at her home. And you want to tell me nothing was done? Only a little boy was caught and was tortured in her home. And the police is complicit in this as well. What is being done? Are charges being brought against her? The question here is, should her name be on the ballot paper? Should the people send her to Parliament? Should she be in Parliament? Is she okay? Is she fit to be a lawmaker based on what we've seen in the past couple of weeks? Is she fit to be a lawmaker? Should the people send her there? Is this the kind of individuals to be sent to a house which is supposed to be a honorable house, a house of honorables? We know not everyone in there is honorable, but I won't bring any one of them to disrepute. But some of them by their actions, and if they want to bring it on, I mean, we can look into it. They've recently just dwelled into actions while the people are struggling, while the people are suffering, while the economy is in dire strait, while difficulties is so rife in the country. These parliamentarians have got the audacity with no fear for God and man and ask for cars. They always think about themselves. Okay, last time it was about wardrobe and increment of salaries and the rest of it, and traveling fee and wardrobe fees, while the masses of the people continue to suffer. Something radically needs to change, and it's the people's responsibility. There is something called people's power, and if that people's power come on Judgment Day, then the republic will change. But until then, it's going to be between A and B. It's either SLPP and APC, and after APC will be SLPP and so forth and so on. But I keep saying, despite all what you think out there, if a change doesn't come, a radical change, in which the people are the ones that are supposed to effect that change, they become conscious enough and realize that this is not working for them, that for 58 years is much talk, and less actions, and they've become the victims of this. And look at what we're seeing right now. Look at what we saw. Look at what is going on. Look at the parliamentarians. They are not the ones that even elect their parliamentarians to the House. It has become business, and this is a fact. It's a business. It's these parties that elect their parliamentarians and send them there. So the parliamentarians does not even understand the needs of the people. In some cases, they don't even come from the constituency. It's when the party and the bigwigs favored certain people, and these people obviously will be given the symbol, and by all means they will find a way to send these people to the House. So if your heartbeat is not in tandem with the people, if you don't understand the people's needs, if you're not with them on the ground, if you don't feel them, if you don't feel for them, if you don't empathize with them, it's not going to work. But Sierra Leonean people, I'll tell you, and I've been saying this, the change that you yearn for must come, and it has to come through you. And not the way that you go about it, in which every 5 years, the so-called democratic process, in which you just change one for the other, okay? In which we elect people that become questionable. Professor Lumumba called them hyenas. We trust people with our coffers. We trust people with our economies. But these people turn out to be something else. We take hyenas, okay, or leopards, probably with a soaked skin, and keep them, in charge of our goats, our livestock. And in the morning when we're taking them out to go for grazing, and we are counting our livestock to make sure that what we're taking out is what we bring, we realize that some of it is gone. And we are asking questions without realizing that the hyenas that we left to take care of the livestock have been responsible for the depletion of the livestock. And as a matter of fact, to and fro, as long as it continues, that's exactly what is going to happen. The livestock is going to finish because the hyenas are being put in charge to take care of the livestock. And when you change one for the other, the system doesn't change. Governments come and go, but that institution remains. And it's that institution that really, really needs to be changed. And that change has to be by you. But until you reach that level of thinking, until you accept and understand your fate lies in your hands, until you understand that there are risks involved and nothing comes easy in comparison with the people in Sudan. See what happened? They got enough. And say enough is enough. Some people have to make the sacrifices. Before independence, people fought and died. We didn't fight very much because it was given to us. And some of the economic models that we inherited are part of what is responsible for our present day predicament, because it's all designed to fail, to benefit the few. That's why the Lebanese are still dominant in our economy, because that's how it was designed. When they came to Sierra Leone in the 1800s, in Liberia, in the 1800s, they've spent over 100 and some more years. They are not integrating. They are just there, here to take. The only thing that helped us a little bit was in Lebanon in the 80s, there was so much war, civil war, that went on for years. So even though they were taking there, siphoning all the foreign currency there, because they're not integrated, to be honest, things were not going rosy in Lebanon. These homes were being bombed, people were dying. So they stuck around, but it was always like taking out. So they've not really helped us to develop. This is why in my last tape, I called for Francis Ben Kaifala to spread his dragnet. Don't only focus on former government officials, because they are not the only one responsible. The act which created your office empowers you, that you should also take action against those who create or facilitate the atmosphere. Not only those who take, also those who give must be brought to book. It's clearly within your remit, sir. But back again to the point. If action is not taken at some point, and I've got some level of optimism that one day the people might take until they can't take no more. You know, sometimes we tend to dismiss our people. It's like, well, they're too fragile, they're scared. And I'm sure governments do have that in their calculus, that they will shoot some gun, kill 2 or 3 people, and people will panic, and mothers will call, where are you? Come home, and the rest of it. But so can only be so for a while. Everything stretch has got a limit. Everything that goes up must come down. These are natural laws of nature, physics. And it can reach that breaking point. And once it reaches that breaking point, there is no turning back. Because people suddenly realize the dormancy suddenly becomes alive. That spark, you know, yeah, sort of feel just like an ignition engine. You turn the key and it sends a spark to the plug. And that spark generates some heat or some flame. And it kicks the engine into action. And then what you got? You got an engine revving. That's how one day I hope that it will rev. That people will realize people's action and take their country back. That this thing that has been going on for a while, where people think that we are fools, should end. So back to the issue of Madam JoJo Jackson. Is this the kind of people that we want to send to the House of Parliament? Haven't we got enough there already of these people, and thinking about how do we change the conflagration of our parliament? How do they really represent us? What shall we do? Okay, what shall we do? A boy was tortured, a boy that should have been taken to police. If you had vandalized Madam JoJo's home, that was wrong. But you have to ask, where's the police? So if the police stands there and the police does not take action against Madam JoJo, you have to ask yourself, today is him. Because that's what happened. It's the same nature of divide and rule. Today is him, tomorrow is going to be you. Because it's supposed to be collective. We need to be together as a people. We need to be able to tell our governments that it's not right, that the shoes that you've just bought me is burning. So something needs to change. We'll go back to Professor Lumumba. Simply because the thief is your thief, or don't bother him, or I'm not going to say anything. But I can speak against another's thief. And they're all thieving the same thief or thievery that's supposed to benefit me and you. So that's the observation of human psychology that I've been doing for quite a while. That people dread losses more than they can savour gains. Even when you're doing business. Every time you're thinking how to make profit, you know. Not to savour it per se, because yes, you'll be happy, but it's because you don't want to lose. So that's the driving force behind you. How do you translate this? How do we make government take responsibilities for their actions? How do we help them to transform? How do we help them to create jobs, to create opportunities for us and our children? How do we change this wretched situation that we find ourselves in year in and year out, decades on decades, that even up till now, no running water in a country of 7 million people, no electricity in a country of 7 million people, people struggling with this day and night. Yet those that have money, when they're sick, they will go out for treatment. Shame on them. But they go in and get the riches from there. But they won't develop the institutions, the services that will benefit the many, in which they will be proud of. And this has been ongoing for 58 years. And it's blame after blame. There's going to be blame after this. We've seen it. It's a pattern. Yet again and again we continue to take it. Ladies and gentlemen, in the larger context of things, don't forget these words. People will come to different conclusions. But there's something to rhyme, or something supposed to rhyme, because there's a common denominator in all of this, which is we are all in it together. We are all in it together. Those of us that are disadvantaged, those of us that are in the many, regardless of where you are. Because it's a cabal. It's an action of the few. It's global. That's what it is. It's just a handful of men running things and dictating to you what to do, how it should be done, and the rest of it. You don't be careful. It's their children. They train their children, give them the best of education, and they come back again and rule you. All you do for them is dance in the streets. We need to begin to identify people that we can identify with as a group with common agenda. We need to begin to organize ourselves. I always say this so that people begin to realize what is at stake. It's so big. We are not part of the national pie. Look at some of us abroad. You know, day in and day out, developing other people's homes, giving our all, and they're squeezing us hard to a point where it will come when our muscles can serve us no more. And all we do is we train our children, you know, to continue in our same path as we did. Because that's what they do. They watch us go in and come out. We're not training them how to become accountants. We're not training them how to develop systems. We're not training them, you know, how to connect with their kids and kings. Because we all see opportunities here. And we are abandoning the homeland. And this is another deficient theory which is not going to work for us in the long run, which just keeps us divided, in which they continue to plunder us. The few here continue to enjoy those benefits because you got 24 hours light. You run a car, you pay for the gas. You run a TV, you pay for the license. Yeah? You park wrongly, you get charged and you pay. And you have to go to work for it. It's capitalism. Have to go to work for it. But you never just get enough. You barely just get something, you know, here to take you by every day until you died. Me and you are not the first. Before me and you were others and others and others. And the question is how long? This is why we have to bring our landlords. Our landlords, I mean our politicians, our leaders, to task, to account. We got to be smart in the 21st century, man. We're not dumb. We got to be smart. We're going to try to organize ourselves. We're going to try and understand where the powers are and how we can utilize those powers. You know that they don't want to see me and you together, right? And this is what we need to be doing. We need to be reading. Go to school. Read books. Don't think because you do internet and Google, then now you know something. No, it doesn't work that way. And then you want to disrespect people who sat down in a classroom for 5, 10 years and in college and degrees and PhDs because you're reading Google. No. Go to school. You can do online learning. There are many things that you can do to empower your mind, to become a critical thinker. Until then, we're still on the back foot. But I'm hopeful that things will change. And when it changes, it will change for the best. It will change. Change will come. And the radical change that we need, it will come. Because one day, it's obvious that it's going to click. So my question here tonight is it time for the President of the Republic to get rid of his finance minister for failing to live up to his responsibilities, his roles and responsibilities? We managed to get the documents on the roles and responsibilities of the finance minister, which is a Public Financial Management Act of Parliament, that shows, that explains his roles and responsibilities, and he's not lived up to it. So we call on him that, Mr. Minister, you haven't lived up to your roles and responsibilities, sir. We've got a document here. You haven't lived up to it. And there's nothing wrong, us calling you out. Nothing is wrong with us calling you out. Probably it was an error. And the fact that that we realized that and we're calling you out, that might probably make you do an about-face turn. That might make you, probably show some remorse. That might make you jog your memories. It's like, yes, these people got it. And yes, I was wrong for saying that. But you don't have to come and, say sorry. I mean, if you want to, that would be a great thing for a minister to do. And this is what the things that are supposed to be happening. But they'll come back again and double down and triple down, like the American would say, stomping the table, because you're irritated, because a question that you did not like was put on to you, and that's it, Mr. Minister. I don't think that's right, sir. And finally, to those of you who will not put on your thinking cap, who thinks that the only politics can be a politics of partisanship, the politics of ideological following extremely. To those of you who think that there's nothing in this for you other than, following. To those of you who think that commitment and loyalty should be unconditional, I've got a word for you. One day, you will be left out. If it's not happening now already, it will happen at some point. Because it's built on a fake premise. It's built on a premise in which you become the tool to achieving the objective. And once that objective is achieved, you become an entity. And if you don't become an entity, because the system that you've helped, here to establish, is not able to carry everybody on its back. So it's obvious that some are going to be left. Which brings me back to the parable of the sower. So a little bit of scripture in today's sermon. The parable of the sower. He planted the seeds. While planting the seeds, some of the seeds fell on fertile soil. The vast majority of them, of course, because it's a big field. But some of them fell on unfertile soil or on the roadside where people are walking. Or somewhere where there are thorns that will, squeeze these young seeds to death. That can be translated, or that analogy is for us with our political parties. We will fight tooth and nail for them because there are expectations and they build up this frenzy in us. And yes, after the hard work, you expect reward. And that reward is only going to the few because the new entity can only accommodate some. There's no space for all. That's why I say it's built on a fake premise. The real premise is when you realize this along with your compatriots, that we are all in this together and fight for equal rights and opportunities by trying to either take the government or make the government work for everybody. That is the true thing that every one of us to do. For tonight, this is what I will leave you with. Okay? I want to end the program here tonight. I think I've done it almost 2 hours, about 1 hour, 50 minutes. And I really don't want to go beyond this. But let's bear in mind, Fambulem. Things not go right. And we people in the suffer. So we get all right for talk. Again, back to them one day we think they will not get right for talk. Shame on you. Shame on you, really. Because I don't know that you go convince. Say, they not get right for talk in the prevailing circumstances. Where I get for work twice as hard now for take care of me people them. And that goes to everybody. Because there's increased pressure on all of us. So for talk, it's a good thing. But people intend now for the interpret, because you talk about waiting to go on, so you're an enemy. Because they don't make the choice. Some people have made a choice binary now. It's either or. So if you talk against, then Nayanda you there. If you talk for, or Nayanda you there. Increasingly, they look like say there's no middle ground, but there are middle ground. But Fambulem, on a serious note, things need for change. We hope and pray that government for succeed. But if government not succeed like with the minister, so actions need for be taken, Papa President. You might need a fresh new brain with fresh ideas. Because the idea not they work, you need for go. Now service not even provide the service not they work again. And we people that need message of hope and change. And even the message of hope, you need for can soon. We people and our everyday people, 70% of them are not employed. They are everyday people. Every day they get for grab and go. And go look for today own. There's never a tomorrow until they grab again and go again. So there should be some kind of a feeling, Mr. Minister. Not come they can holler people. Please, please. Mr. Dubon Hill, please get in touch with me, or I will try to get in touch with you. I'm happy that you joined my program tonight. We will, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a very big man on the program again tonight. But this is from the Republic of Liberia. It's a senator. And I'm really excited that he joined the program. And there are better things to come. You see, I try to impress on my friends as well that there is a correlation between these nation states, especially in West Africa. And it's happening because their nation states there are becoming integrated, are becoming one, like one nation, which we rightfully supposed to be, because a house divided cannot stand. A house united is very powerful and strong. And that's why I believe in Africa rising. It may not be in my time, probably might not be in my daughter's time behind me, nor my son, but probably in their children's time. So, Papa, everybody, men, women, children that have been watching this program, Patience Jonah from the Republic of Liberia. I say thank you. Hindolo Corey, sound like a first timer. Welcome you to the program. Thanks for watching. And of course, my brother and friend, Jimmy Okello. Welcome to the program, my friend, and thank you so much for your contribution. And not forgetting Sister Edmonda Elizabeth Jonah. She's been very active as well. Very correct, brother. The youths that dance in insults others are still on it. Exactly, my sister. Dance and, violence, for others and what have you. As soon as the end objective is achieved, game over. And then you do up and down. Now you want to go slap somebody for taking a mobile phone in your hand. You're not being looked after the same people, and I promise you. And it's a recurring vicious cycle because they're waiting again. In about 2 years' time, as soon as election they begin for each year, we can't see the frenzy. Yeah. When are we going to learn? This program tonight is dedicated to the people of the Republic of Liberia, Sierra Leone, Conakry, Guinea, the Gambia, and Togo. Because I spoke to a lot of people before this program from these 5 countries. That's why they remain fresh in my on my mind. And to everybody else. Like I said, that was the 2-hour mark. And I really need to say good night to everybody. So the brother that wanted to speak to me, I really, really apologize. But I'm having another program coming on soon. I've been trying to title it. I'm still struggling with the title. I haven't had the materials yet, but I'm coming with it soon, and definitely I will give you audience as you want it, because yes, not everybody wants to appear on video for definite reasons. But to all of you, thank you for watching. Mr. James Okello, there are tickets for sale. Tickets have gone on sale now for one of the biggest charity, a UK-based charity, registered charity, Bamioma. And we call on all of you for come patronize us. It's a big charity. It's registered, a bona fide charity. and we are helping like 5 countries in the region. But presently we focus in Sierra Leone, and pretty soon we will be going into Gambia and Liberia. We are building, I think, about 2 schools in Sierra Leone now, refurbishing one and building one. And we've been involved in this now like for years, and we're having our 7th annual dinner and dance. We will take place in London at the River of Life. Ticket is only £40 per head. Under £40, because we're not a profit-making body, because we've got support. So basically that £40, we sort of rewind it and give it back, you know, like some form of corporate social responsibility, although not all of it goes back to you, but whatever is left, we say thank you to you, and we send it back, you know, to Africa or somewhere to help others who are in need of it most. So that dinner and dance is coming. Food and drinks is on your £40. You can drink, for those that can drink. You can drink as much as you want, and there's plenty of it. It's a very generous organization. There's a Facebook page. I've invited over 400 people. So if you have not been invited, my apologies. Please contact me if you want. I'm on number 077-4010-7250. It's on the 14th of September. We've got a little bit of time, but those who are prepared to succeed, they start now. On that note, I want to say thank you and good night.